As with most things these days, new cars are a fair bit more expensive than they were a few years ago, but some models are bucking the trend, including this, the updated GWM Haval Jolion. While the pure petrol version of this car looks pretty much the same as the previous model, this hybrid looks almost like an all-new vehicle with sporty bodywork and new features, all for a lower price tag. Is it worth considering? This video is going to take you through everything that's changed on the outside, take you through all the space and tech there is inside the cabin, and of course hit the road to find out just how fuel efficient this small hybrid SUV really is. Let's get started. There has been quite a change on the outside of the updated Jolion Hybrid. New nose and new tail as well, black wheel arch flares, black door handles, black mirror caps, as well as this black spoiler that not everyone will like. I'm not a huge fan, but let us know what you think. But worth knowing, this car is not all new. It's the same underneath as the previous model. Same distance between the front and rear wheels, and all the dimensions, length, width, height of the total vehicle are within a couple millimeters of the previous car. So although it looks quite new, it isn't actually all new underneath as you might think. Now, do you like the look of the updated Jolion Hybrid? Is it a little bit too much for you from a styling point of view for a car that isn't meant to be a performance car? Let us know in the comments below. Now, if you're not a fan of the look, there are plenty of other small SUVs for sale in this market segment. There's definitely no shortage of choice. We have tons of new and used examples for sale all around Australia through hand-picked dealers on Drive Marketplace. Check it out at the link on your screen now. The GWM Haval Jolion range starts from $26,990 drive away for the premium petrol and extends to $38,990 drive away for the ultra hybrid we're testing in this review. All models are currently being offered with $1,000 off until the end of 2024. So this version currently starts from $37,990 drive away at the time of testing. Features exclusive to the Ultra include a panoramic sunroof, head-up display, wireless phone charging, front parking sensors, automatic parking, and a power-adjustable front passenger seat. Features shared with cheaper models include 18-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights, a 12.3-inch touchscreen with wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, 7-inch digital instrument display, heated front seats, synthetic leather look upholstery, and a power-adjustable driver's seat. Powering the GWM Haval Jolion Hybrid is a 70 kilowatt, 1.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, aided by a 115 kilowatt electric motor, which together produce 140 kilowatts and 375 newton meters. They drive the front wheels through what GWM calls a direct hybrid transmission. Fuel consumption of 5.1 litres per 100 kilometres is claimed. Over a week of testing, we returned 7 litres per 100 kilometres, measured at the pump, which is on the high side for a hybrid. While the exterior of the Jolion Hybrid is very different to before, the interior is pretty much the same as the previous model. You do now get reach adjustment in the steering column, so it comes in and out as well as up and down. But still, for my height, 186 centimeters tall or 6'1", doesn't come out quite far enough for my liking. This Ultra spec gets power adjustment on the two front seats, as well as this synthetic leather look trim, as well as heated front seats. Seats are pretty comfortable. Again, not the most supportive, but still pretty comfortable for a car like this. Though the power adjustment is a little bit basic. There's no under thigh support, nor is there any lumbar or memory functions either. We've also got a ventilated driver's seat, which is a cool touch in a car at this price. It's only ventilation on the seat base, not the seat back, which is, I find, where you tend to get sweaty and where you want ventilation in a car like this. Now, in terms of storage, it is pretty good in this car. You've got some storage under here, under the center console, a pretty decently sized center bin, glove box as well, and modest sized door pockets. So I will say these cup holders, you get 2 cup holders on paper, but one of them is a normal size and the other one is quite small. So unless you have a, very, very small cup, or you want to use that for like sunglasses, it's pretty much 1 cup holder, which is a bit of a shame. Got also some storage slots around this gear shifter for things like the key fob or some sunnies or stuff like that. Now, in terms of amenities, at this price, it's pretty hard to match the Jolion Hybrid. You've got 2 USB ports, so they're both the older USB-A style, as well as a 12-volt socket. Keyless entry and start, this huge panoramic sunroof, got ambient lighting around the cabin, as well as a head-up display, which is not something you normally see at a car at this price. It's really great to see on this vehicle. Wireless phone charging as well as dual zone climate control within the touchscreen. Speaking of the screen, it is pretty big in this car at 12.3 inches across. That's one of the larger displays in this segment, but some of the menus are quite confusing and it's not the easiest to use in this class. Now, you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but they're only a wired connection. There's no wireless connectivity in this car. There's also no digital radio or satellite navigation embedded into this system, but you do have usual AM and FM radio bands to choose from. Now, some of the things in the screen include the climate controls, which are hidden occasionally a couple of menus deep. Now, you do have to swipe up from the top to access them, or tap at the top, and then you can change them. There's also a row of hard shortcut keys under the screen, and there is an AC button, but that just turns it on and off. Now it does bring up the aircon menu when you press it, but it also turns it on and off in the process. So it's a little bit counterintuitive and not an ideal solution to bringing up the aircon menu. There's also no physical home button to press. So if I'm in Apple CarPlay, open my maps, there's no button to easily just return to the home screen. I can turn the screen on and off, for example, but there's no button to just click home and then go into the menus. Now, some of the things, in addition to the climate controls, are just buried in unusual menus. So for example, go back to the main screen, your heated seat controls are hidden in the car settings under a menu that says seat settings, which is a little bit counterintuitive. You'd expect them to be with a normal temperature and fan speed for the air vents. That's something Haval could improve for a future version of this car. Now, some of the translations in the screen also aren't the best. So for example, the emergency lane keep assist function, which as we'll talk about later, you will want to turn off a lot of the time when you drive this car, is called keep lane on urgent rather than emergency lane keep assist. It's a little bit hard to understand, and some of the functions aren't labeled very well, which makes it a little bit harder to use and just takes some of the shine and some of the substance out of what is otherwise a pretty well packaged and quite a spacious and well equipped interior for the price. Officially, the Haval Jolion is classed as a small SUV, but space back here is comparable to a car from the class above. Think Toyota RAV4, Haval H6, Kia Sportage, something like that. This driver's seat is set up for where I drive. I'm 186 centimeters tall, 6'1" if you prefer. That's a little bit further forward than I might otherwise like, because that steering wheel doesn't come out quite far enough, as I said before. But still, space is fantastic back here. Got loads of knee room, like full, more than a hand's width between my knees and the front seats. Loads of toe room, as well as really, really good headroom, even with this panoramic sunroof. It's definitely fantastic for someone of my height, or even taller if you're 6'3", 6'4". You can fit back here without any issue. That's not something you can do in many other small SUVs. Now, amenities are really good back here. You've got rear air vents, 2 USB-A ports, with some little bit of storage in the back of the center console, map pockets, as well as a fold-down center armrest with 2 more cup holders. Now, I will say the seat base is a little bit flat. So if the driver takes a corner a little bit quickly, it will slide around a bit, and I would like a little bit more under-thigh support. The door bins, also, they are there, and you can fit a bottle in them, but still, they are on the small side for a car like this, particularly with this much interior space. But still, this is a fantastic rear seat, top marks for the Jolion in terms of space and practicality in the back seats. If you want to carry tall people in the back of a small SUV, the Jolion should be near the top of your consideration list. Let's check out the boot. On paper, the updated Jolion Hybrid claims 255 litres of boot space. It's a big reduction from the 390 litres you got in the previous model. But where I'm standing here, looking at the boot, it doesn't actually look 35% smaller than the previous version, like the numbers suggest. That said, it's not what you'd call a particularly large boot for a small SUV. This is a full-size suitcase. As you can see, it's a bit of a struggle to fit lengthways, even if I remove this parcel shelf. And slide it the other way. It's a snug fit, and even then, there's not a whole lot of room around it to fit other things. If you're buying this car for Uber, for example, or want to fit prams because you have small kids, this probably isn't the best small SUV for you. Now, remove the suitcase. A couple other things to point out. This tailgate is quite low, so you can see I'm whacking my head on that. 186 centimeters tall, as I said before. There's quite a difference in the height between this boot and the ground. There's quite a fair way to lift things over, particularly if that suitcase is full of luggage. And under the floor, you've got no spare wheel, just the tyre repair kit, which is good for small punctures, but not so good if you get a particularly big puncture, as is common sometimes on Australia's city streets. Now, things to talk about here, you also got storage on the side as well as a light, but overall, yeah, it's a pretty small boot, not a whole lot in here, and it is quite compromised in terms of space. So if you plan to carry big things all the time, the Jolion Hybrid probably isn't the best bet for you. On the road in the Haval Jolion Hybrid, and the first thing you notice is, as with any hybrid really, is the silence. It obviously starts in electric mode if there's enough charge in the battery, and even when you're driving along around town at 40 k's an hour as we're doing now, it's really quiet and quite smooth. You don't really notice the transition from petrol to electric power, especially compared to a Toyota where the petrol engine can get quite coarse when it starts. The battery in this car is also bigger than what you get in, say, a Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid. So the Jolion will run on electric power for longer, and even if you give it, a little burst of power, it isn't as quick to just fire up the petrol engine and start running on internal combustion power. Really good, really smooth hybrid system. We're quite big fans of that. The Haval Jolion Hybrid is a really easy car to drive around town. The steering is quite light, perhaps a bit too light for our taste, but I think the intended customer will appreciate that. It's a little bit vague on center, so you notice that, say you're on the highway and you're trying to want to make a small correction in the position of the car in the lane, it does end up being quite a big movement of the steering wheel, but hey, something you can definitely get used to, and definitely not a world-ending feature in a car like this. The ride is quite good too around town. It's, little bumps, little imperfections in the road, as well as speed bumps. Does a good job of soaking that up without too much fuss. Not too much of a jolt in the cabin, nor is there too much back and forth head toss like you can get in cars with soft suspension. However, it isn't perfect. You do notice sometimes you hit a bump in the middle of a corner, for example, even at city speeds, 50, 60 k's an hour. It can upset the balance of the car a little bit and sort of rocks from side to side. It's not the worst, it's definitely something you can drive around. It's not a big deal, but just worth mentioning, it's not quite as secure and sure-footed feeling as, say, a Hyundai, a Kia, Toyota in this market segment. But it's when you get the Haval Jolion out of the city that some of its other weaknesses do start to appear. It's quite noisy on the freeway. There's a fair bit of tyre roar as well as wind noise, though you can drown it out to some extent with a stereo. And although it's not meant to be a sporty car, on a winding country road, it isn't the most confidence-inspiring in this class. There's a fair bit of body roll, and that rear suspension can skip over bumps at times and not be the most sure-footed in corners, like I mentioned before, around town. The brakes also could be improved. In an emergency stop, they're quite good. They pull up quite quickly. However, the brake pedal feel is something we're not huge fans of. The first few centimeters of the pedal doesn't do a whole lot, and then suddenly you get a bit of a grab and it pulls you forward. You notice it, for example, in traffic when you're creeping along at 5-10 k's an hour and sort of just brushing on and off the brake. Again, you can get used to it for sure, and it's not the worst thing we've ever experienced, but it's just something worth mentioning as a bit of a learning curve that we're not such a fan of, and that could be improved in a future version of this car. You do have 3 modes of regenerative braking. That's the effect that when you lift off the accelerator, when the car starts to slow down, the electric motor is recuperating energy to charge the battery. 3 different modes to choose from in terms of how strong of an effect you want that to be. You've also got a 1-pedal drive mode. So basically you can lift off the accelerator and then without touching the brake, the car will come to a full stop. Something we don't often see in a hybrid. It's something that's normally exclusive to fully electric cars, but it's great to see in this Haval Jolion Hybrid. Visibility out the front and side of the Jolion is good, and the mirrors are big, though it's a little bit compromised out the rear. One annoyance, the wheels are set quite far into the body, and this new Jolion has wheel arch flares, so it can be hard to see the rear wheels when trying to park close to the curb. Sure, there are plenty of cameras on offer, but it is nice to see the rear wheels and where they are while trying to park in a tight spot. Our biggest gripe, however, is with the safety technology in this car. The emergency lane keep assist system is constantly fighting you, even when you're trying to hold the center of the lane and not even driving close to the lane markings. The driver attention monitor doesn't like when you look away from the road for more than a few seconds, and it especially doesn't like when the driver wears sunglasses. It's counterintuitive given how much of this car and its controls are hidden in the touchscreen and require the driver to look away from the road. The most puzzling thing is when you trigger the lane keep assist repeatedly or the driver attention monitor repeatedly, it will flash a warning message up on the screen with a choice of yes or no buttons, distracting you even further from the road. It goes away eventually, and even if you press no, there's no penalty. It's just bizarre and a really unusual design choice. All these safety systems add up to a slew of beeps and bongs on the road. Some last for a few seconds, while others are up to 20 seconds of continuous beeping. Overall, the Haval Jolion is a quiet and easy car to drive around town, as long as you turn off some of those advanced safety aids. So the GWM Haval Jolion Hybrid. This is a really solid small SUV at a compelling price point. Good points, it's roomy inside, the hybrid system is smooth, it's got a long list of equipment for the money and a 7-year warranty as well to back it all up. However, parts of the cabin tech could be made more user-friendly, safety tech is in need of more refinement, the boot's a bit small, and some elements of the drive experience could be made a little bit more refined and need a bit more polish. And while that price is sharp, given the equipment you get in this Haval Jolion, it is in the territory of Toyota, Mazda and Kia cars, which, although aren't as well equipped, are more refined and lack some of those rough edges that this car does have. Overall, if you like the look, it's worth taking one for a long test drive on roads that you're familiar with to see if this car will fit your lifestyle. To read our full written review on the GWM Haval Jolion Hybrid, click the link in the description below, and of course, to watch another video, click up there to watch our best small car picks from the Drive Car of the Year Awards for 2024.